But our topic today it could be a fun one. Jeff Welton's with us as usual, and Mary Schnelly and the folks from Broadcast Depot who contribute to the operation of this presentation. And one of the things that's getting harder and harder, and not just in broadcast, but you dial a support number and you get the AI. Please tell me what we can do for you, and I will attempt to solve this. It's even more frustrating if you go to a chat box and you type this in. Hi, I'm Harvey, your AI assistant. How can I help you? And of course, none of the things that they list are things that you want to do right then and there. So you have to go through and try to get a live agent, and that's a whole bunch of fun. I've made this kind of a personal crusade in a way over the past couple of years. I've approached a number of firms that deal with broadcasters. And by the way, there is a website out there called Find a Human or something that gives you the code for a lot of companies to bypass the AI. Sometimes it's pound, sometimes it's #1, sometimes hit the phone with a sledgehammer, and you can get to a live person. But there are things that you can do ahead of time that will make your experience more fruitful. But we'd like to confine it mostly to broadcast today, although if you've got a specific question, hey, we'll tackle it. And that's where Jeff comes in. Jeff spent a decade and a half at the support desk before he ran out and played support desk mobile. And now if you have a problem in the Eastern US, you call either the company or Jeff and you get something. So what happens? What happens when you call the number for Nautel support or Broadcast Depot's support number? And that's what we want to talk about. And some companies only have support 9 to 5. What about if you're on a mountaintop at 3 a.m.? What if you're on a mountaintop at any point in time and you get the message, leave your phone number and we'll get back to you just as soon as we can? And you just don't know when that is. You're going to sit there and camp out for the next 3 days. Jeff, what happens if somebody calls the Nautel number?
So, and I'm going to keep it a little more general, but so I'll run through our specific process first and then qualify it with how it can work with a lot of, and not mention anybody by name, because I mean, like you say, some do 9 to 5, 5 days a week. Some have tiered support where if you've got X number of warranty level, then you get a call this week. If you get a higher level of warranty, you get a call within the next 24. If you get this higher level, you'll get somebody will come visit you by the transmitter site, shake your hand, and buy you coffee. So it varies a lot from one company to the next. With us, I'm going to ask you to enable screen sharing, Barry, and I will run you through the exact process. And this will also explain why, and we get this complaint a lot. People will be like, why the hell do I need to give you my firstborn son's social insurance number in order to get any support? Meaning we insist on transmitter serial numbers. And that's done for a very specific reason. Oh, and so we were talking before we started. I'm just going to share that monitor. Let's see. Hopefully I'm sharing the monitor and not the specific file. So you should be,
Yep.
let's see, looking at my United Assistant screen. And it's a prime example because United, and this comes back to what I was talking about with the tiered support. If you have gold level status with United, you have a phone number that will be answered by a human every single time, gold or higher. If you've got silver or lower, you have a phone number that will be answered at some point by something that may or may not be human. And then you hit all the buttons, and that's where your find a human thing comes in. But with support, we've got a couple of options. If you hit the contact support on our website, and I cheat, instead of hitting any of the buttons, I just hit contact support to open the main page, and it gives you the option or the options you've got, including the phone numbers and live chat. I'm not going to start a live chat right now because I spoke to Kyle this morning, and they got two guys on vacation and one guy on the road, and they are slammed. So I'm not going to distract anybody by adding an extraneous one. But when you do start a chat, this is the kind of thing that you'll get asked, and none of it is mandatory beyond your name. And the rest you fill in as much as you can. The more information you give them, the less time you're going to have to waste playing 20 questions. And so this is one of the reasons why I tell people, when you're at a site someday doing maintenance run and you got nothing else to do, then because there's never, we've always got all kinds of spare time at transmitter site, but take a dymo labeler or whatever your Brady P-Touch, whatever your labeler of choice is, record the serial number for every piece of equipment and put it on the front of that piece of equipment with a piece of tape. So that when you call, you're looking at the serial number for the transmitter. You don't have to wander around back in the dark at 3 a.m. and try to figure out where the hell we hit it. Do it in a sunny day when you've got a little extra time, and it'll make life simpler. So when you call us, the very first thing that happens, and we used to do you'd get during business hours, you'd get a receptionist who would take your name and number and pass you on. We've shifted it now. We use a VoIP system, so the calls go directly to the text. So the guy answering the phone is usually the guy that's going to try and help you. And the first thing they're going to do is type in your name. So say, or call sign or serial number or whatever. And we can search this database on everything. So we use Salesforce. But say, for example, I type in Michigan. Well, if I scroll through, I see Barry Michigan as a contact with the BDR. If I click on it, I can tell you every single time Barry's called me going back for quite a while. And whether it's related to the BDR or something else, I can click on that service ticket and get the directions. This is where I really, really hope that anybody putting anything in the system was politically correct and polite about it. Don't want to get a chastising phone call from Barry later. But then we can click right through to the case. I can tell you what call sign it was. I can tell you who he spoke to, when he called. I can go down and any emails. I can read the transcripts. So we maintain a history, and just to give you an example how far back we maintain it, I think CFDR still exists in the system under their new call sign, but let's go to our cases. So if we take CFDR, which is used to be 680 in Halifax AM, and I start scrolling down, and let's see, I'm back to 1992, 1989, 88. Kevin Rogers was our service engineer at the time. Now he owns the company. But so I can open this service ticket from 1988 and tell you exactly what the situation they saw and who they were talking to. And I mean, you get that far back, that's all paper files. We used to handwrite this stuff. And it was just all scanned into the system. So it's a little sketchy when you're pre-2000. But again, I've got a reasonable idea every time anybody picked up the call relating to any of our transmitters anywhere in the past. So having the record is huge. And this is one of the reasons we beat the drum on serial numbers, because y'all change call signs frequently. But the serial number of the transmitter is the same from day one till day end. And that makes my life a whole lot easier. So if you tell me you've got, for example, H101, which would be serial number 1 of something, I can go in there and I can scroll down to assets and open it up and tell you where every single one of H101 for everything we built happens to be. And so long wave transmitter, for example, I don't even know where that is, but I can tell you, again, I can see it, I can find it, and look at every service ticket on it. And this is why we beat the drum on serial numbers because that's one reason. The other reason is if I go into our engineering database from there, I can tell you every single module that was in that transmitter the day it was built. And that helps for looking up any deviations or field mods that might apply. So that's in a nutshell the process we go through. If you call in and, I don't know, Barry, shoot me a call sign.
KPYT.
Papa Yango Tanky or Yankee Tango.
Pasquayaki tribe.
There you go. I got it right. So if we, an LPFM,
Correct?
and so if we go in there and we look at cases, I can tell you that you've got a fairly recent service ticket with an Orban issue. And you and I had spoken briefly about that on the phone a week or two ago as well.
Yep.
And so I'm a sales guy now. I don't typically put a lot of stuff in here unless it's something major. But you were talking to Terry about it, and so Terry's talking showed about enabling the limiting there. And let's see if I go to related, I should see emails. And there's your last email to Terry. So I say we track quite literally everything.
And for those of you that are out there moving from VS to VX, the interface is different. The VX now has HTML5 partially implemented. But if you're doing with the Orban inside, it's a whole different scheme to get your modulation set.
It's a pain in the ass.
It is.
I'll say it out loud. I don't mind. It'll change and it'll improve. But right now they took away the audio level meters, so it is a pain in the rear.
Also, the fact that you don't have the same audio adjustment that you had in the legacy app.
So the primary one is the same. The one that you were talking about before was never really meant to be primary. It was more meant to adjust between different audio sources. But you're right, and a lot of us, me included, did use that one as our main audio adjustment. It was just easier, and yeah, it went away. Let's see, what was the other thing? There was something else I was thinking about, and I forgot what it was. Had a brain fart there. But yeah, so that's the kind of thing, knowing the serial number, again, being able to see what frequency, for example, on an AM, knowing what frequency it was originally built on, and then seeing what frequency you're on, and that way I know there was a frequency change done. I mean, we'll be able to see stuff from that a lot of times our customers aren't aware of because contract engineers come and go as well. So, that's the kind of thing that just makes it a whole lot easier on both ends. And, it's just, yeah. So like I can go into Vermont Public and I can see things, and right off the bat, we are going to Ted retired. So we'll give that one back to me. And that's the kind of stuff that we just automatically adjust as we go through stuff and as we see it. So we'll constantly know who spoke to them last and what they were talking about, who's the best person to reach at the station within the limits. And this is where it becomes key. When you guys move a studio and the invoicing address changes, we were talking about the AI earlier. Our invoicing is automated. So if you buy a module and we send an invoice, it's going to go to whatever address I've got in this file. And usually these days we do it electronically with email, but by the same token, it will go to the whatever the invoicing contact person is. And so if you change that and you don't let us know, then we're going to start sending invoices to the wrong address. They're obviously not getting paid because nobody's getting them. And after about a year or so, somebody's going to pull the plug on support, which will make your day get a whole lot more difficult when you need us. So current information whenever you can provide it.
Now, you're going to provide the serial number and the call sign.
Yep.
Shouldn't you also have at hand what the proper TPO is, what the number of alarm lights that you see are, how much reflected power there is?
So TPO is typically a little less critical. If you're calling with a support, I mean, TPO, I can almost always look it up in the FCC database, and all of our support guys use the same stuff that I use. Um, However, the red lights is huge. Tell me what lights are lit. On anything we build currently, if you click on the like the word status will change to red when there's an active alarm, orange or red depending on the severity. And if you click on that status, it will pop up a window on your user interface that tells you what alarms are currently active. Beyond that, you can go into the logs and see what alarms have been active recently. And if you download the logs, it makes life easier. I mean, when there's smoke coming out of something, then it's not always easy. And, I'll occasionally get something like, let me pop this email out and bring it up here. And I don't think so this is a brand new one I got today. But when you send me a picture like this and a whole bunch of pictures like this, I don't know, did that still sharing? Are you still seeing me scrolling my email?
Yep.
Good. I did share the screen and not the program. But yeah, when you send a row of pictures like this, it helps if there's a story behind it, like what happened. I mean, ever see this before is fun. And then the answer will be, well, no, not recently. I haven't. Not on that transmitter. Have I seen all kinds of burnt stuff on transmitters? Oh, yeah. So, that's again one of those cool things. If you send me the picture, that's cool, but I need as much background as you can give me.
Now, is
And
that going to be in support at nortel.com, attaching
what's that?
pictures?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if Ken has sent this into as a support case or not. He just sent me the email with those photos, so let's take a peek. Let's see
The reason I
here.
ask is some companies will not let you send graphics in.
Right, and we absolutely will. I don't see anything current for Ken, but let's go to his name and go to activity. And oh, look, there's an RMA for an FM, but that was a J1000 PA he was sending me the picture of. Email sent information. Let's see, field mod install on a, nope. So that's something totally different. So yeah, I will end up opening a ticket for that one and including the pictures because that was on an FM and this was definitely an AM in the email. And I mean, the other thing too, getting back to, so like if you look at some of the legacy gear, like the old, say the old AmFET series as an example, then knowing what serial number lets me know which of the four major revisions of that transmitter you've got. And it'll be a different manual depending on which one of those. And I mean, Grady can vouch for the fact that we've got a library full of every manual for every transmitter we built. And that library used to be in the customer service office, and Grady's seen it. And now it's in the training room right behind customer service. But I can go get, if I don't have it right at hand electronically, I can go get the physical manual for your exact transmitter. And unlike some models, that manual should be very, very close to the schematics of your transmitter.
Now, that raises a question again
Mm-hmm.
for someone out in the field, and they come in and now they're a new contractor or new employee. How do they know which generation they have? I think with the VS, you got 10 generations.
VS has got two major hardware, or no, closer to four hardware iterations, counting the controller boards, two bootloaders, and more software than you can shake a stick at. Some of it is really irrelevant. A lot of it, if you go back to the Nautel website, one of the things you can do is we've got the Nautel users group where you can register or log in if you've already got a membership. We don't track this stuff. It's pretty automated. You really don't have to be a customer if you need access. It's not the end of the world. But once you log into that, you've got access for documentation. So say we take a VS, for example, and say VS 300. If you know the specific model number from the back of the transmitter, you can select it. If you don't select it, and just go to, say you want the manual set for it, then when you hit search, it will give you choices. And that one you'll have to pick and choose, but you can look at the model number right on the serial number label to get that. So yeah, we do break that down on the website, and everything that we currently build is on there, plus a lot of the previous generations. Like for example, I see AMFET series, first generation AMFET series. So the AMFET 10, we stopped building that in 1989. And if I want to go to those, I can see the exciter for the AMFET. That's for the AMFET 50. So AMFET 10S, and again, you're somewhat limited. A lot of this stuff was not scanned because that was all created. So that AMFET 10 goes back. We were putting manuals on a Wang word processor then. This predates WordPerfect even, but you've got the ability to access the entire manual online, and you can go through, and it's PDF, so you can use OCR if you need to and search it. Let's see, I think we can see if it will search, like, because that's a scan, it might not. Nope. But if I download it with Adobe, I can use the OCR on it. So it'll give you everything you need to know. It's a complete manual set there. The only thing, it may or may not include the modules, but you will have access to all the schematics. Let's see about there, and block diagrams and all that great stuff.
I'm going to frustrate you, but I'll ask, what about Orbad inside?
So this is one of those things that I wish we did better. And it's on the list of things that we do need to do better. Whenever we deal with a third party, the Orban inside was based on the 5500. So we just tell you to go to the Orban's website and download the 5500 manual, which is great because it lists all the controls, which is terrible because it doesn't give you the user interface that we use. So yeah, we could do that better. I'm not even going to pretend that's not the case.
So you're recommending go off to Orban and download it.
The same if you get the Orban processor option for our HD importers. That's PCI 1101E. And for that, you're best off downloading the manual from Orban's website.
So let's go to another aspect of this, and that be software.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know which version of software that transmitter has.
It makes the support guy's job easier if he knows, because again, for the VS, we're currently at like version 5.1, I think. Let's take a quick peek here. Let's go back. Yeah, there. So latest software, and this is all generally available. Again, we don't restrict anybody from being able to get to it. So 5.2, 5.3.2. So there are probably about 30 different versions of software under 5 primary revisions from like the first dot, 1 dot, 2 dot, 3 dot, whatever. And 4 and 5 are very similar. 3, 2, and 1 are fairly similar. But knowing which of those two you have makes a very big difference in how we support it. And a lot of folks don't necessarily update the software on a regular basis.
So let's do one. I want to get on to mechanical connection again for a second. Mm-hmm. But yeah, on the VX, the new transmitter, you click on software and there's about, I don't know, 30 entries, 40 entries.
Yep. On the VS, it was the same. It was 5 or 6, but yeah.
Well, 5 or 6 and 30 or 40. Which one do you want to know?
None of them.
None of them.
None of them. You are looking for the version. If you ignore the software versions, click on update software, it will tell you what TGZ file is resident in the machine, and that's the one you want to know. And it will only show you as many as you've loaded, which typically is not going to be more than 1 or 2 or 3.
All right. So now we have somebody that's got a problem, and they call Nautel, and you guys are slammed. So they
They
give
get a
mess.
recording to leave a name and number, etc., or they will end up getting it will default back to Lisa or Heather typically if all the techs are busy.
So if you're sitting on top of a mountain
Hmm.
and you want to know how long it's going to take,
No idea. So you've called me on support before. How long did that call take?
oh, in my case, the support guys they're right there. I've never had
No, no,
one.
but no, but what I'm saying, when you've talked to me on a support question, was the call always the same length?
Oh, of course not.
We never know how long a call's going to take. I can't tell you how long. Kyle's on the phone right now. I know he was because I checked in with, well, I can see his call status on my screen. But, yeah, and that's the other thing we've got. Like John, our head of support, has the switchboard for our 3CX system. So he can tell you when every one of them's on the phone or on a live chat or on a Teams call. And anyway, so the point being, Kyle could be on the phone for 15 minutes. He could be on the call for 3 hours, and it will vary time to time. So we don't even pretend to have an average time to tell you when it will be. Um, I give you PC Optimum, my grocery store I was talking about before, the battle I'm having with the rewards card. They currently tell me that my wait time is 32 minutes. The last time they told me it was 32 minutes, it was an hour and 14. So, that's an average. There's no point in giving you the false hope.
Sure. So now at 3 a.m. you call
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
you get the message.
Right.
Now,
So at 3 a.m., if you call, you're going to get a live human at an answering service who will then call the on-call tech because we have a rotating screen of on-call techs. So it just doesn't dump to a queue,
and if the
so to
on-call
speak.
tech is online,
Right. If they're busy, then it could be 15 minutes to an hour. Typically, it used to be that we had a target 15-minute response time to an after hours call. Call volume has gone up enough that we've eliminated that, but they do try to respond within 30 minutes. And for the most part, they will. Even if it's, I'm on another call, I'll call you right back.
okay.
So yeah, and again, the person you're going to be talking to a human. We've looked at AI support and we are considering it, but it's not there yet. It's
All right. Next thought that I'll toss out to you here, and that has to do with the you're up at a site, and
Mhm.
it is the same thing as 3 a.m. I mean, you don't want somebody to sit there at the mountain site for the next 2 days.
Right. Yeah, and they're not going to be there for 2 days anyway. Like I say, if you call in at 3 a.m., I mean, number one, we don't have somebody paid to sit by the phone 24/7 or in rotating shifts. At 3 a.m., whoever's on call is probably asleep the same as you wish you were. And so that'll go to the service. The service will call their cell will wake them up. They will go make a coffee, shake themselves into consciousness. I mean, my ex-wife used to laugh that the phone could ring at 3 in the morning. I'd pick it up and answer it, and it sounded like I'd been awake for 3 hours or 3 days. But it's a skill you learn. So everybody's got a different way, but we all shake ourselves into some level of consciousness before we call you back. And in that case, you're going to get it as soon as I get the coffee made. So in about 10 minutes. If I do happen to be on a phone with somebody else, which is not impossible, but not really common, then it could be closer to half an hour.
Okay.
David had asked in the chat if we have a diagnostic tool that connect our Nautel products that your customers can't access, and the answer is no. You have access to everything we have access to. If you go through the phone home process, we can get access to your machine, but usually we prefer to use TeamViewer. Shoot, I forget what version of TeamViewer it's called. It's a version that allows us to use your phone camera. So we get you to log into the TeamViewer call. We'll send you the link. You log into the TeamViewer call on your phone, and we use your camera as our eyes. And that's kind of cool. But no, we don't have any like any back doors that'll let us into your box. At least not without you opening the door for us.
That's the call home feature.
Yeah, and we can, if you give us access using PC Anywhere or TeamViewer or whatever VPN or VNC client you like. We can go in through a serial connection into the Linux terminal, but I mean, you've got the ability to do all that at your end as well. Rich asked if we had a transmitter at WJLK. The answer is no. And we'd only know about it if where it is now if somebody called us about it. So there's that as well. Yeah, then we don't track them either. We did suggest at one point, especially with the lower power ones, that we start putting tiles in the shipping box so we can tell you exactly where your transmitter is on its way to you. But that's never happened. I mean, obviously it adds cost, which adds to your price when you buy it.
One thing I will say, every single time at any station I've ever consulted with or worked for, anytime I've ever called Nautel support, somebody has been there every time within minutes, if not immediately.
There will be times when you do wait. We will we'll have situations where, well, like today, if you called in today, you will get somebody who will take your name and number, or you'll end up leaving a voicemail and somebody will get back to you. But I've seen times when the entire roster was just slammed and they're rotating through them in chronological order, and it could be 2 hours. For it to be more than 2 hours is pretty rare, but not unheard of. And if you leave a message at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and nobody picks it up before quitting time, the odds are that it might wait till the next morning. So there are some challenges with it. In that case, typically, if I called later in the day and reference everything to say 3:30 Eastern time, but if I called close to or slightly after that and didn't get an answering service and didn't have an answer within an hour, I'd call back later and make sure that it got to a person if it was an off-air situation.
That's one of the options on the voicemail system. Press 9 if you're off the air.
Yep.
And again, I have found that the response has been very attentive, and it's not the same with all companies.
We do a lot of triage. If you call us with a parts order question let's pick on Brian for a moment because I know he's on the West Coast. So if he called me at 3 p.m. his time, 7 p.m. my time, and left a message asking about routine parts, like what's the price on these fan filters, he's going to get an answer tomorrow, guaranteed. And I love Brian. I mean, he's a good friend, but he's not getting his answer today on parts order question. If he called me and said we're off the air and hit 9, then absolutely he'd get a call back. Brian mentioned a different Brian knowing Dave Chenoweth's and talking about that if he didn't write it down in the middle of the night, he might not remember in the morning. And I've had the same situation by the other end of the spectrum. Spec Dave's wife's probably like my ex. I've come in from going to get groceries or something and should be, oh, Winston called. Oh, what do you want? Oh, don't worry about it. I fixed it. It was F2 on that MFAT 50 in Raleigh. And I mean, when they hear the same conversation 100 times a year, some of it sinks in. But yeah, the MFAT 50s, if it was at quarter power, it was always F2 or F3 under the exciter drawer. And she'd heard it enough, she knew that.
Would you say there are certain calls you get that are more common than others?
Oh, always. Yeah.
For instance?
Yeah. For instance, how do I set the audio level on my Orban inside of my, as an example, on used to be, and I don't know if we still have it on the website. Let's go take a little wander, shall we? It may have gone away as things have evolved, but at one point we had an FAQ on the website, and I don't see it right off the top of my head. So Yeah, it's possible that's gone away. But one of the things we do is the how-to videos on our YouTube channel. And so this is an example of the kind of things that we get a lot of calls on. Anytime we get something where support detects a pattern where we're getting a lot of calls on how to set up meter lists on our gear with the AUI. So they record a little 5 or 6 minute YouTube video and put it up on the website so you can get to it. So that's the kind of example of the sort of things. Anything on this list, and this is, I suspect, what replaced our FAQs. So just to give you an example. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for every product in the world, doesn't matter what it is, from a toaster to a transmitter, there is something that confuses or is an issue or a concern or a problem for a lot of people. So yeah, now,
And
a lot of times we will try to make the documentation better to explain that, but that does require RTFM.
yeah, it does. And again, for those that have wondered, you call Orban and they'll tell you to call Nortel. Nortel will tell you we're not processing gurus. Read the manual.
Yep. Or, well, I'll give you an example. I bought a couple of air conditioners up here for the house about a month or so ago. First time it's been hot enough to actually figure I needed them. And so I buy these air conditioners. I get them in, get them installed, went through the install instructions. Life is grand. They're all in. Turn them on. The wife was out doing something or other. She comes back and she goes, "There's not much cooler in here." I go, "Well, I know. I'm kind of disappointed in these." And she looks and she goes, "Did you read the manual?" And it's like, "Well, no, it's an air conditioner. What do you need to know? Once you get it mounted, you turn it on and away you go." She goes, "That's a fan, not a snowflake." And I said, "Well, what's that mean?" And she goes, "It means fan, not cool." So once she turned it to cool, it's amazing how much better the air conditioners performed.
Very-
Just to say that I may or may not be as guilty of it as the next person when it comes to not referencing the directions.
Okay. Well, let's go sideways for a moment before she has to run away. And
Mhm.
Mary, what happens if one of your customers calls in for help? And let's say they do it just after business hours.
Well, normally, if it's after business hours, if they call in, somebody will get a call. So a notification that there's a message left. But the best thing for us, like we're not like a transmitter manufacturer. So most of the time, the technical issues are not a life of the station.
Yeah.
But we've got a couple places on our webpage. We've got a button on our front page that says customer support, which right now is down because they're doing maintenance. So the timing's not very good. But there's that. Or then if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, there's an email for customer support too. And for my customers, I always tell them they can call my cell phone. So if it's during hours, after hours, um, and then I can do the best to try to help them.
So you triage it, and if it's a request for a quote or
Yeah, I
some
mean, it just kind
information,
of depends on the nature of it. Like, there's not a lot of things that we sell that 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 doesn't have a manufacturer's coverage of support, like Axia, Inco Automation, Nautel. So it just depends on the nature of it.
okay,
Some of,
I'll raise a question for you.
uh-huh.
Suppose you get a call from somebody and it's not his transmitter because you tell him to call not tell, but he says my audio processor broke or my codec broke, and I need to get back on the air. So let's say they have a Comrex Bricklink.
Mhm.
What would you maybe? I'm not wanting to put you on the spot here, but how would you help somebody in a case like that?
Well, it depends on the nature of it. So if they're truly off the air and they need to get back on the air, I can call somebody in Miami, and if we've got something in stock that we can ship, since we're close to the Miami airport, we could do like a flight. Obviously, they're not going to get it FedEx or UPS if it's after like 7 or 7:30.
But
But
the
we do
point
have the option that we could do a flight.
the point is, and I'm getting back to the same idea here, you do check your voicemail and you do
Oh,
respond if there's an emergency.
absolutely. Absolutely. Somebody's responding if it's truly an emergency. And like most of my customers have my cell phone number, so they know they can call me, they know they can text me, they know they can email me. I do review emails after hours, and if it's an emergency, I'll call them. If it's not, then I take care of it the next day.
You don't do it within 10 minutes necessarily. You have to.
No, it obviously it kind of depends on what I'm doing. I mean,
Mhm.
and I'm not technically on call because I'm not technically support,
Right.
but I do offer that as a service to my customers.
Exactly. And that's why I bring it up because you do that. And I think that's one of the reasons that Broadcast Depot at least deserves consideration when somebody's looking for something to buy.
So, but if you do it on the website, that goes to a particular person. So if it's after hours, they'll get a notification.
Good. Okay. Well, let's see if there are any questions from the field about customer support. Any, I don't know if I want to say horror stories or any kudos that you'd want to pass on. Anything worth commenting about in terms of customer support? Press your space bar or alternate A to open your mic.
I think in this day and age, I find that the more frustrating customer support is the non-support you get from um, computer type products. Um, some are superb, and I could name one or two names there that I would easily give them a 10 on customer support. Most of them, I wouldn't give you a plug nickel for it.
And a lot of it depends too. Like we have a Dell business account. We're pretty much exclusively a Dell company, and we've got amazing support for them, but we pay them for that support. So it does vary in that regard too. I agree with you.
Well,
And
I will add a note, like that's one of the benefits of dealing with a dealer like myself or Brian, because we can help circumvent some of that. If it's a product that we carry, we can help with that support if you've got an issue with a manufacturer.
oh, I didn't
Well,
realize, Brian, you'd checked in. I don't want to leave you out of this because you're a
uh,
good guy and you care.
I was making fun of him earlier, and I mean the cool thing too with the dealers or with having a dedicated representative, somebody that you speak to on a regular basis. And I've got a pile of people, even though I haven't been in support for 17 years, Barry included, that will call me with their support questions just because we've got the relationship. And I mean, that stuff kind of sticks around. Like, I just want to give a birthday shout out to Tim Barry because I see he's logged in and today's his birthday. So there you go. Happy birthday, Tim. And I'll hear about that later. But yeah, the relationships are huge because you know that somebody will pay attention. Even if it's, and I had a guy call me the other day and he said, look, he goes, I'm dealing with support. They think that we had a power surge and that we're having an issue with getting warranty coverage, but I don't think we had a power surge, and here's why. And he provided his reasoning. And so I looked at it, it made sense. So I went to support and said, hey, I said, here's the situation. And customer called me back, said, just want to thank you for stepping in. They agreed to the warranty. I mean, it's not that we arbitrarily try to deny warranty on everybody, but it's not all inclusive. And when it was a couple of hundred transmitters in the field, it was a lot easier to be flexible. When it's tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands, you tend to start watching the bottom line a little bit here and there.
But the basic criteria, the basic premise of how to deal with your customers. That doesn't change.
No, no, it's all 20 questions. It's a fact-finding mission, both the troubleshooting, the root cause analysis, all of it. You got to do the digging, and most of our guys are really good at asking the questions. And yeah, it can get frustrating, especially if somebody's got to escalate the call because they don't have a lot of experience with that box. And I'll pass somebody along in a heartbeat. If you call me on a J1000, probably my weakest AM transmitter we build. And I will probably hand you over to somebody that knows what they're talking about rather than waste your time. But that means that all the stuff you told me, you're going to get to tell to somebody else in the next level of call. So, it can be frustrating, and I get that, but it allows them to give you better support if they hear it in your words.
True. And we're in a shrinking industry in many ways. We hear about all these rifts and the consolidations and duplexes and triplexes and things like that. And one of the reasons for bringing this topic up today is that we have a pretty good bunch of folks that join us, and yet there's still some questions. There's still, for instance, you have an AMFET transmitter. No, it still supports it.
Yep.
You have an SX1 and no, it doesn't work.
That's not fair. If you call Gates with an SX1 question, Walter will help you with it. There's no question about it. And
if you
Walter's
get Walter,
friggin' brilliant.
If you get Walter, but if you get one of the guys that's brand new, go beyond the SX.
Well,
Let's talk about the BC1G.
But I say they're not going to have the hands-on experience with it for sure. But
Yeah.
I mean, in a lot of cases, like we've got Gavin on our end, and I know he's brand new; he's still learning. So a lot of times he'll go ask somebody else. Now he came to us from tests, so on the current stuff, he's pretty good. But if you asked him an AMFET question, you can watch his hair start to stand on end. It's kind of cool. And he will go hunting somebody that has seen one of those transmitters to ask the questions.
The reason I bring the SX up as an example, because I've heard many times you can't get certain parts for that, or an MW1 or a BC1G, things like that. Now Continental, hey, the 816Rs are the same as the 831s from 1974. A couple of little changes, the IPA, for instance, but you're dealing with a transmitter that design is essentially 50 years old, and a lot of the tech support guys ain't 50 years old.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I mean, if you're calling them from 9 to 5 on a weekday. So,
but you also have to think that Gates has went through different ownerships too.
Oh yeah.
So that always changes the flavor of customer service too.
Oh, ownership, customer service managers, everybody's got their own way of running the ship. So it does vary from one to another. And a lot of it is just learning how to work with the manufacturer that you're working with.
But that brings up another point. That's why you consider, when you buy a product, you look at the manufacturer.
Right. No, well, and I mean, that's kind of crucial. And I mean, I see Pierre in the audience and he's being awful silent. And I see a good picture of him and Rosie there, but he won't turn the camera on because he's all shy and stuff. And I'm giving him time to realize I'm talking about him before he starts to feel his ears burn. But I mean, Pierre and I, again, it comes back to the relationships. We've known each other since I started at Nautel. I mean, one of my first calls was on the MFET 10 he had at KOTZ in Kotzebue. So that kind of history makes it a lot easier when it comes to talking about the support. And I mentioned Walter earlier, by the same token, I know a lot of folks in this industry that have been working with Walter and Ralph for decades. And I mean, you can't put a price on that kind of relationship.
Absolutely. They've been there over 30 years because they were there when I worked there.
Right. I mean, Ralph's kind of sort of retired again, I think. But Walter started there at about the same time I started at Nautel, if I recall rightly, give or take. And I mean, yeah, that's got some value to it. So certainly you're going to make some decisions based on that, and you should.
One of the things that you can say about the company, even through the changes in ownership, is there has been an effort to maintain the experience and knowledge base that if somebody has an issue with an SX1, you can at least get someone to talk to.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and I mean, there are also, like, you got Mike Patton down in Baton Rouge. I mean, has pretty much made himself an industry out of retrofitting MW1s and SX1s. So there are other options in the industry here and there. Van with the CCA stuff in out of Mississippi. So there are a couple. But yeah, it's the relationships. I mean, this industry is so small that if call somebody with a question and they don't know the answer, odds are pretty good they'll know somebody that does know the answer.
And things are a lot better now in many cases than it used to be. Back in the day when I was getting started, I remember having a problem with a Gates FM transmitter. And I found that my manual didn't match the transmitter. And when I called Gates, their manual didn't match the transmitter. And
Yep. In the old days, things got interesting. Still got 4 or 5 binders in the back room of DWA's deviation waiver authorizations from 1984 through 87. Things that were done in transmitters. And what we used to do when you bought a transmitter, you get this big orange binder for the manual, and there'd be 20 or 30 pink pages in the front. And those pink pages were meant to be inserted throughout the manual. They referenced all the changes between the manual and what we actually shipped you. What usually ended up happening was the pink pages got removed to be put in the manual, then forgotten, then discarded. And so you got a manual that doesn't match the transmitter.
yeah. Hence my earlier comment about Generation 10 on the VS, that it's important to know which transmitter you have. And if you've been getting those updates, they should be installed.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think I woke Brian Walker up. I know he's there with his lab. Brian, you're welcome to speak up too.
I was.
Yeah. Brian's another guy who cares enough to go more than just answer the phone and quote a number and say thank you very much.
Yes. There's a lot more to it. And, everything that Jeff has said is absolutely right. And it's also a lot about finding out where the customer's at, not physically, but what's the project that they're trying to accomplish? That's important to know in terms of customer service.
It is, because you may have a suggestion to solve the problem that's a lot different than what I had in mind when I called you.
Yes. And sometimes the suggestion in my mind would have been very different had you told me that minor little detail that we just found out about. Oh, well, okay, yeah, you're not going to get, 12 kilowatts of ERP out of a 100-watt transmitter. Had you shared that with me, maybe we would be approaching this a little differently.
And absolutely, again, you're not it's in the customer support from the technical specifically, but
Yeah.
you have the background and experience that and this is why I encourage folks to call Mary or to call you, because you guys know the customer a little bit better oftentimes and can make those suggestions that you're not restricted to one company's product line, and yet you want to help them get what they need done.
Yeah. I did have a customer call me the other day who was just ranting and raving and carrying on about his new 300-watt transmitter that did not start with an N, and it was just having problems settling down. And I asked him, well, have you run a ground strap yet? Thinking back to all of the speeches that Jeff Welton has given us about grounding. And there was a long blank pause on the other end of the line. And so he agreed to get back to me, and I have yet to hear back. So I think, sometimes you get lucky.
Yeah. Well, and that's like just taking ND series, our AM transmitter from the 90s to early 2000s. That transmitter, the 3/8 inch stud on the back that bolted the transmitter into the chassis was the primary ground return for the module. And if that bolt got loose, weird things happened. So 9 times out of 10, it'd be like, hey, yeah, go around back and just all those 3/8 inch nuts, just give them a twist of your fingers and let me know if any of them are just finger tight or are they wrench tight. And all right, cool, I'll give you a call back in 5. And 10 days later, no calls. And it's like, okay, I guess that was the problem. So, but yeah, a lot of times no response tells you that you gave the right suggestion.
Yes.
Let's see. Ray mentions required to leave an email. Yeah, we do under the contact us for sales, we do have the phone numbers, but yeah, for the most part, we push to leave the email. And I will admit that there are times where I will miss an email inquiry too sometimes. So definitely. And here's the other thing, and this is kind of non-related, but not. If you send an email to info@nautel.com or support@nautel.com, that email will go through no matter how much spam is attached to it. I'm not saying that you should start spamming those addresses, just saying they'll go through. If you send an email to jwelton@nautel.com, I would gather that I couldn't give it a percentage, but I have discovered that a lot of emails get trapped in IT security, some of which shouldn't. So if you send an email and you don't get a response, my cell number's on our website. Send me a text to say, hey, dumbass, you didn't answer your email. And then I'll come back and say, what email? Or words to that effect. But yeah, if you don't get an answer to an email you sent me, just assume I didn't see it. And send me a text to say, hey, fool. And remind, yeah.
The point I was trying to make is most websites, and I buy a lot of RF components, not necessarily limited to broadcast. Most websites, they don't even have a phone number on the website anymore. So
it's getting stupid.
Well, no, and then you leave an email, and probably 75% of the time you don't get a response back.
Right, and that's like I say with the IT security. With the IT security we've got, there was a point where they had cracked it down to the point that if there was any financial information in the email or attachments at all, it got blocked. Well, so if I send you a quote, one of the things in that quote is the banking information to tell you how to pay for your damn transmitter. And if you send me back that quote, it got blocked. And I said, guys, do you think you could fix this? So now if you send me back my own quote, it'll make it through. But if you send me through your purchase order and it's got bank information in it, InfoSec requires that it will get blocked. And I mean, part of that's related to our military stuff and the IT security we need for that. So just something to keep in the back of your mind too. Like I said, always best dig up a cell phone number and text me. But like you're saying, Ray, there's a lot of sites don't even give you that ability.
Yeah, all I'm asking for them is to help me spend my money. And
I had a guy called me one day and he goes, I've been trying to spend money with y'all for the better part of a week and you don't seem to be interested in taking it. And I said, well, I'm here to tell you, I'm really interested in taking all the money you want to send me. How can I do that? And, but yeah, that was exactly what it was. He'd sent an email and it got trapped in a filter somewhere and didn't make it through. And once we figured that part out, we were able to get things sorted. But yeah, it's a challenge. And as the spam and the malware and the ransomware situation gets more and more severe, it's becoming a point that the email is becoming a much less reliable means of communication than it ever used to be. There's a good question. So Jay asked if Nautel sends notices out when there's software firmware updates available. And the short answer is no, we do not. We've debated it over the years. and we just haven't figured out a way to do it reliably. What we do is once a software revision is released, it goes on our website. It's something I would like to see at the very least us posting it to social media and saying, "Hey, just so you all know, I guarantee you, whenever the new HTML5 AUI is released, you'll be seeing that one posted on social media." So,
What about
Oh,
the
yeah.
BDR?
BDR counts as social media to me. It's a resource and it's online.
All right. I'm gonna raise a question here that maybe some of the folks are curious about. Mary, Brian, you guys sell Nautel transmitters. Jeff sells Nautel transmitters.
Mm-hmm.
Is there an advantage to calling one of you guys or calling Jeff?
So I'll answer
Depends
that
on
one.
the transmitter.
It depends who you love.
Well, yeah, there is that too.
No, I'm not joking. I mean, what I was talking about before with relationships, I tell people my job's to make it easier to buy Nautel trans or make it easier for people to buy Nautel. I don't care whether you buy it from Mary, buy it from Brian, or buy it from me. It's all the same to me. It's just whatever relationship you've got that makes it easier for you. You're going to get the same report or support either way. Price should be pretty close to the same either way. I don't know. I mean, maybe Brian marks it up a bunch because he's so awesome. I have no idea. But maybe he marks it down a bit. I again don't know. But
Well, the one thing I do know, and I know you're careful about this as Nautel has been over the years, you don't undercut your reps. There are some manufacturers out there, and I could certain audio processing company I won't name,
Yeah.
relatively frequently undercut the reps, and that's
We-
not a good thing.
we
Yeah, then
try
you
to
don't sell those products.
Right. We try to have our pricing set so that the dealer discounts are sufficient that they're enabled to compete. Because if y'all were dumping every single quote request to me and none of them were going through Mary or Brian or anybody else, you'd be waiting weeks for quotes, not hours or days.
Well, and
So yeah,
to
we
make
work together. We're a team.
to make a very serious observation, Mary and I, we're not going to be able to do what Jeff can do on a 50 kilowatt AM transmitter. That big, huge iron isn't quite where we're at, but also Mary and I are going to be able to offer a whole bunch of stuff that Jeff doesn't have access to,
Right.
antennas and feed line and towers and,
I'll tell folks
stuff
flat
like
out,
that.
I can quote all that stuff, but you will pay double what you will pay because for us, right off
Yeah.
the bat, we don't want to inventory it. We sure don't want to hold it in stock and pay asset tax on it every quarter if we don't sell it. So yeah, we don't stock it. If you buy any of that stuff from me, you're going to pay convenience store prices. And I'm very honest about that. And to be brutally honest, my commission on it is so low that there's no incentive for me to work on it either. So if you ask for a turnkey project where you want the antenna, the coax, the fittings, I can do the math and do I've got the software to tell you every single piece right down to the round member adapters and I was going to say the hanging, I have a name for them that I can't say on recording, but those little stretchy things for pulling the coax up there,
Hoisting grips.
Thank you. Finger
Mary, I
pullers
was
my
waiting for him to break down.
my finger puller was my polite phrase for that. But I mean, I can tell you, I can give you an itemized list of what you need, but I will avoid quoting it. I will send you to Mary or Brian or whoever you prefer to deal with that isn't me on stuff like that.
Well, and there's one advantage to buying from Brian and I too is terms. I mean, based on the customer, we may have different terms than what Natal would.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Hey, Brian, do you still include a little packet of goodies inside your boxes?
The boxes that ship out of our warehouse, yes, there's still an almond roca included.
Yeah, I love those things.
If it drop ships directly out of Nautel, you will not receive an almond roca.
sort
No,
of.
you'll receive red high-heeled shoes.
Yes.
So, and there's another example, and I'm going to make Mary tell the story again because she's told it here before. But we had a situation once where a customer who had a long history of Mary asked her for something, and she reached out to me and said, "Can we make this happen?" And this is where the teamwork makes the dream work. Amanda in Bangor came through, took a visit to, I think, Salvation Army store, found what was required, and make the trip as a back ordered part, and right down to having a Nautel part number assigned to it. So, Mary, give the backstory.
Well, this started in my Harris days. So I had a group in West Virginia that was looking to buy Harris transmitters. We went to dinner and there was a few drinks involved, and we started talking about things, and we started talking about some engineers that wore red high-heeled shoes. And so they said, well, if we buy transmitters, we want our red high-heeled shoes. So about 6 months later, they finally bought the transmitter. So I put 2 boxes of red high-heeled shoes inside the transmitter, which there's a backstory to that too. That created a lot of problems internally because quality control didn't like it because it was a non-conforming transmitter. But so those shipped, and then I don't know, it was what, 4 years ago? One of the engineers that's part of this group was talking about it and ordered a Nautel transmitter. And so we were kind of talking about it, but it totally surprised him because I sent the shoes and he didn't really know they were coming. So, but that goes back to relationships. That's kind of what, makes this business fun sometimes. Sometimes we're too serious.
Yep. And
Would
it's
the,
kind of
uh,
cool to get an email that, yeah, I got this box from Nautel and opened it in the morning meeting because I didn't know what it was, and pulled out a pair of red pumps, I think it was, but yeah, red high-heeled shoes.
So would those shoes have been a conforming shipment if they were Harris blue?
No, because the part number wasn't on the packing slip.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
the test technician gave me a whole bunch of trouble about that. Like,
Well, and
so
that's like I say with these ones, Amanda actually took them down to receive them and had them logged into the system, created a part number for them, and then wrote that part number out as a warranty order in order to get it through our ISO.
you
So,
didn't tell me that. That's
oh,
the
there's
same
always a
process.
back.
That there was a process like that at Harris too.
Yeah,
So
I mean, again, and I'm sure every company does something similar, but as part of our ISO certification, not just the service tickets and the phone calls, we track every part that wanders in and out of the building.
yeah,
And
Harris was ISO 9000 certified too. So same
yeah,
thing.
yeah, and I'm
That's
sure
why
they're
quality control wouldn't release it.
right, and I'm sure they're 2015 now, same as we are, and yeah, it does add a few steps, but you can still make the magic happen now and again. This is the kind of thing that makes this job fun.
Yeah, I always wonder if that part number's still in their system because it was a 999 number.
Hmm.
I have the opposite story. You'll love this one. So I was representing a client that had bought a big transmitter, and they wanted me to go to transmitter school on it before it shipped. And so I fly out there, and they're showing me this thing, and they're going to turn it on and show me the basics of how it works. And I'm opening the doors and looking around, and there's a circuit board in there that has no wires connected to it. I said, so what's this? They said, oh, it's a part. It's in there. Don't worry about it. And I said, no, you've got a working transmitter here that you're showing me how it works, and there's this circuit board here on the wall with nothing connected to it.
It's Bluetooth.
It was in the book to build the transmitter. They no longer used it, and at this point, it was too much trouble to take it out of the system. So they stuffed it in the box and shipped it.
Nice. Yeah, and I mean the other thing on the opposite end, well, not opposite end, but along the same lines, we have a lot of customers come in for factory acceptance, and I guarantee you, if you're going to see smoke and flames in our test room, it will be when there's a customer standing in front of the rig. And we never set them on fire unless there's somebody there to appreciate the spectacle.
Now, Brian, I'm wondering why the 50 kilowatt transmitter is a problem. Today, they're the size of a refrigerator.
It's because a 50 kilowatt or, even a 40 kilowatt FM, that's going to be part of a project, and the pricing is usually going to get creative, shall we say? Because
a lot of it depends. I mean,
well, you're not necessarily going to call Jeff only. You might call somebody in Quincy, Illinois, who does not work for Nautel. You might call someplace else, and so it can get brand competitive in terms of pricing and get out of the range that Mary and I can work in.
Part of the question too, Rich, is that with some of these consolidators, they'll go and they'll try to buy 20 or 30 transmitters at a time, and the manufacturer has a great deal of incentive to cut a deal.
Yeah. That would probably be about the only time you'd see me going anywhere near Brian or Mary's pricing. But if I've got a 20 transmitter order coming through, and in that case, yeah, like you say, there's a little more headroom to play. Other situation that comes up a lot, there are quite a few companies out there that do integration, and I know Mary's contracted some of them, and I know BSW has over the years, where they'll offer an entire turnkey process, including the installation. Now, we'll do on-site commissioning, like sending somebody out to turn the located, put in position, uncrated, and hooked up transmitter. We'll send somebody out to verify all the nuts and bolts are tight, all the wires are connected where they should be, and go through the turn-on procedure. What we will not do is electrical, RF plumbing, moving the old box out of the way. So in a situation like that, we'd contract it out to another company, the same as BSW or Broadcast Depot. In that case, again, it's just, like I say, ultimately it comes back to the relationship and who you want to deal with. And our job's just to make it as easy as we can.
Any final thoughts about customer support and service and things that you'd like to either share or ask a question before we
Just hit me on a topic I'm enthusiastic about, 415, and I haven't even tried to back out yet. Sorry, go ahead, Grady. Go ahead, Grady.
I only have one comment, and that is with respect to AI in terms of customer support. Loud and Clean has had only AI customer support now for about 2 years because a third of my brain has gone away, and whatever they get is whatever's left up here.
And I made the joke, like I say, we've looked at doing AI-based support, and that comes back to that FAQ and the common questions thing, Barry, where you can almost, I guess, anticipate the most common questions and have an automated response saying, if you're calling to configure your OR-band, press 4. Or press 5,397, 246.3. I don't know, pick a number, but yeah. but that kind of thing, like we were saying earlier, when you get an automated, like an online chat with an AI assistant, and it gives you a list of things to choose from, what you're looking for is almost never on that list.
Jeff, I have a comment. Earlier in your presentation, you mentioned using DIMO labels to put the serial number on the front of the transmitter, so you got it right there when you call tech support. And I started to think, gee, why don't you do that at the factory, but maybe have some kind of a label that's just inside a door or someplace, so it's not way down on the back side of the transmitter, but somewhere where you can see it easily while you're talking to somebody on the phone.
I made the argument that the serial number label should be on the front panel, period. I mean, and the challenge with that becomes every new design has got a whole pile of people involved, including people whose only job is to make it look pretty and doesn't matter how it functions. So it's a battle every time, because the marketing guys, of course, want it to look beautiful. The service guys want it to work so they're not getting called on it. The engineers want to make it do the most it can for as little requirement. And the sales guys just want something that y'all will buy. And
Right.
so the challenge becomes the people doing the buying are typically not the people doing the work at 3 a.m. And the people doing the buying don't want an ugly serial number label on the front. One of the
Well,
things you will
maybe
see,
don't put it right on the front where it makes it ugly, but inside the front door or something
well,
where you can.
so I'll give you an example, Marvin. If you buy a new VX transmitter, when you go into that transmitter's information page, you're looking at the serial number for the transmitter. So we've put it in the software now. And that is one of these improvements where we do listen to the feedback, and it's like, how do we get this where people can find it? So now
Yeah.
the cool thing is you can log into the transmitter from your office, even if you're not at the site, and you can get the serial number while you're on the phone.
That maybe the way you need to do the next time that issue comes up is you get a photograph of where people have used the Dymo label to put it on the front, and you say, "Look, guys, this didn't turn out very pretty the way they did this. If we'd have put this inside the door or something, this wouldn't have happened."
Yep. Yep. So
You know,
that's what I say. Putting it in the software was an improvement that we made as the result of that. So you can just log into the transmitter
Yeah.
and see it. Now, if your user interface is frozen or locked up, and that's the reason you're calling, you're still SOL. So there's always room for improvement.
I put the serial number for my NV10LT on the upper right corner of the transmitter on the front. So it was at eye level for me. And I also included the date that it went into service.
So you give me the serial number, I can tell you the date that it went out the door, but I certainly can't tell you when it went into service. So that's a good idea. Sort of like,
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of folks, they swap out fan filters and then use a Sharpie to write the date they swapped it on the
Sure.
edge of the filter where you can see it.
Yeah, good idea.
All right, where's the serial number?
What are we looking at?
Aren't you looking at it here?
I've got 5 screens up. Let me get back here. Where do we hide it? Hit the hamburger, the little top right section, the little 3 bars. You're going to make me try settings. I don't know if it's settings or software. Scroll down, transmitter info. There's your MAC address, and there is your serial number has not been entered. So there's where your serial number should be. So yeah, work in progress. But
At least we've got the MAC address. We can ping it.
and you do have the ability to physically, I see you put the call sign in. So yeah, you can put the serial number in and save it and have it right there. Okay, so I thought we were doing that, but it looks like they're making it up to you guys to do that. Oh, while we're here, hit the hamburger if you could, and software. Let's see if I get this right. There, current version 6.3.1. So that's what we've done rather than making you choose 85 different versions. Because yeah, if you click versions to the left, you're going to get the far left. You're going to get every single version of every single plugin in the thing. And you're right, there's 30 or 40 of them. But the just clicking on software and at the top, it does say OS 631 there as well.
So where do you click to check for upgrades?
On our website. You don't check for upgrades through the transmitter.
Oh,
We do not do anything with those transmitters reaching out to the World Wide Web because letting the internet know that we exist is typically frowned upon.
all right.
And I've shown Shodan before with there's enough broadcast product physically available on the internet that we don't need to add to that.
No, I guess there's no alarms.
Nope. Yeah, and that's one thing that this has changed that I'm not sure how I feel about it, but you don't have the actual logs page anymore. It's called, I think, reports. So if you click the hamburger again, you should see yes, and that will tell you every alarm you've ever had. I do
Well,
get a
they went silent for a little bit.
yelp for 30 seconds, 33 seconds if we're being specific. 23, yeah, 23 seconds. I got to learn to math better.
I guess I have to get the email set up so that they can send an email to the GM whenever. Now there's
I
4
and
seconds.
going to say there's something that I have started doing. So our station, the email goes, if it's audio related, it goes to the GM and the PD. If it's anything else, it goes to me. But yeah, if you guys forgot to trigger the cart or open the mic, I don't need to know about that unless it happened lasted for more than about 30 seconds, in which case somebody's back at the studio panicking and trying to figure out how to get the automation restarted.
For these guys,
Yep.
and this is specifically for these guys because they actually do have a Native American couple that comes in with pre-recorded stuff that's not always in phase.
Yeah, the list that you would be really nice, and that is on near the top of the list for the day 2 releases, which I know that Justin sent an email out the other day that they're working on it right now and hoping to have it soon. I'm not even going to guess at a date, probably before the NVLTA UI is done, but shortly. Yeah, and adding the some level of audio player support as well, like the playlist, the things we had on the VS that made it awesome.
Right. So, no, very, very nice looking.
You don't have the RDS turned on.
No,
How come?
they don't do that.
Why not?
Probably because they're a low power FM and they don't want to spend the money for it.
Okay. Fair enough. Do they use automation or is it live audio?
It's live assist.
Okay, so what automation system? I know I'm playing 20 questions with you. See, this is the support guy coming back.
An old cheap one that the current on-air people don't like.
But does it have the metadata output?
I don't think so. I think it's
okay. Hey, look, I got customers running SS32 on DOS, so you know. Brian's nodding his head. Apparently, that's a little more common than I'd like to think.
Far more common than you would like to think.
So anyway, well, we're an hour and a half past the top of the hour or the initial start time. So I am going to disappear soon because I've been watching my email going ding, ding, ding in the background as we're talking.
Well, I always said you were. No, never mind. I won't go there. Will not go there.
Oh, you know, I am a dingling. There's no question. I own that. I wear it with pride. But,
hey, Brian, I'll ask. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Thank you, Jeff. As always, we really appreciate you being here.
Oh, there you go. Question. So Jerry had a good question here on etiquette. When you've given a suggestion to a customer at 3 a.m., do you want them to call you back an hour later when it's working? And the answer is not just no, but hell no. No, at the very best, send an email and say, hey, thanks, that did it. We're good to go. Because then we can close the ticket on our end. But absolutely do not call us back at 3:35 or 4:42 to say, hey, that did it. It works now. It's like, great. Appreciate you. That will guarantee that you are coffee station talk the next day or water cooler talk.
Yes.
So awesome. Well, folks, I want to thank you all very much, and we'll see you next time we see you. Let's see. I'm headed to Nebraska next week, and Alabama almost at the same time because I Nebraska, Texas, and Alabama are 3 shows in 4 days, all overlapped. So with 2 of us covering, it's going to be an exercise in. Let's just say I'll be driving from Atlanta to Birmingham on between midnight and 3 a.m. on August 8th, and that trip will be fueled by Starbucks double chocolate espresso beans.
Is that when you want us to call you?
Yes.
Y-
Yeah, you can
yeah,
call
yeah.
Jeff on that day and tell him thanks. That helped me.
Because I sure as heck better be awake at that point in time.
Now, is that a visit to Jasper? Have they ordered a new transmitter?
Not from me. All right. I'll let you go. We'll talk to y'all later, folks. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
See y'all.